Hi, how you doing? Okay, so we are here for a little truth and golf here in beautiful Mitzpe Yericho, and we are going to be talking about a young woman from Florida whose name is Lara Alqasem. Lara Alqasem is, I don't know if I'm really pronouncing her name right. I hope I am. She is a student from Florida who used to be part of a number of anti-Israel organizations, including Students for Justice in Palestine, and they are. She planned on studying at the Hebrew University here in Israel, in Jerusalem, and she not such a great shot. So she planned on studying here in Jerusalem, and when she applied for a visa in Miami at the Israeli consulate in Miami, she was awarded a visa. Came to Israel on a flight to Israel to study at Hebrew U, and got to the airport, and all of a sudden found herself stopped at the airport and not allowed into Israel. And when she asked why, she was told that under the new law, which any supporter of movements that work against the safety, security, whether it be the physical safety and security or the financial security of Israel, and tries to delegitimize Israel, are not allowed into the country. It's not that you're accused of a criminal action, right? A lot of people say, what about due process? It has nothing to do with a criminal action, but rather the idea is that if you work against the government of Israel, so you're not allowed in the country. A lot of people have a problem with this because they say, well, that goes against free speech. Well, free speech, first of all, just so we're clear, is not a right in Israel. The press is censored here by military censors. So this isn't America where you have the right to free speech, just like you have in America. So that's not it. And this law doesn't apply to citizens of Israel. These are visitors of Israel. This girl is not a citizen of Israel. She's not Israeli. So she doesn't have the right to come into the country. Not everybody has a right to come into every single country. So the sort of assumptions that are laid here in this case when people hear about this case aren't really true. They're not necessarily true. So the assumption that, well, everybody should be allowed to come into Israel, that's not true. Every country has a right to determine who can and can't come into their country. Then there's the idea that, well, she didn't do anything wrong, there's nothing criminal. Well, that's irrelevant. Doesn't matter. Every country can say, we don't want redheads in the country. And then the idea of free speech also doesn't apply in this case because there's no concept of free speech as a right in Israel, nor is there one for non-citizens. So those are three factors to keep in mind that simply are being put onto this case that are not true in this case. So those are the first things to keep in mind, that are assumptions that Israel is accused of not allowing free speech, shunning somebody that should be allowed into the country. There are no such things in Israel. Not everybody is allowed to simply come into the country. Not everybody doesn't have a right to come into the country, and not everybody in this country has a right to say whatever they want to say. Those are not givens in Israel as they are in the United States. That's number one. Number two, keep in mind that in the United States, not everybody can come in. If you write on your visa application to America and say, well, I'm coming to America because I want to undermine the basic principles and tenets of what this country stands for, which I disagree with, your visa is not going to be approved. It's that simple. And it's amazing that it took Israel this long to pass a law like this. In the past, we would let people that wanted to undermine our country just come on into the country and stage protests, demonstrations, interfere with law enforcement, interfere with basic army protocols. And we would sit here and say, okay, well, I guess that's what we have to do because we're a democracy. But that's not what democracy is about. Democracy is about allowing your citizens to have their say and be able to be able to approach their elected officials, and elected officials being responsible and everybody having their voice. But to have total strangers who are trying to undermine what your country is all about and then allow them to, that's absurd. So that's what this law is all about. Now, what I think, if I could be critical of Israel here, what Israel's done wrong is Israel allows these people to come in, tells them that they're not allowed to stay, and then they get a phone call to a lawyer who all of a sudden rushes off to court, and the courts have to hear the case. The courts can't make a judgment right away, so the courts schedule a time to hear the case. There should be the first thing that Israel should do is, once they have somebody that they suspect of not having the rights to come into the country because they're working to undermine the country, the first thing that Israel should do is put them right back on a plane and send them back to America or Europe or wherever they came from. Just put them on a plane. If they want to argue their case, let them argue from outside of Israel, from what we call chutz la'aretz. Don't allow them the opportunity to give Israel a black eye. This girl is sitting in an Israeli detention facility or a holding room. I don't know where they're keeping her. And we're probably feeding her, number one. My tax shalom are going to feed her. But number two, she's sitting here making a whole deal where everybody's allowed to say that Israel's detaining her. Israel's not detaining her. She could leave whenever she wants. She can go back to America. And that's exactly what she should do. She should be going back. The argument made by Brett Stevens and others that Israel is showing fear and should allow people to come here, I don't think they're understanding the tenuous financial and economical situation that Israel's in, and saying that, well, everybody should be able to come here. We have these people come. Sorry about that. They're not just coming here to protest. They're coming here to interfere with the government's normal duties. And that should simply not be allowed. So I think they missed the point when they say that we should allow people the opportunity to come in here and criticize Israel. No, we shouldn't, because they're not just criticizing Israel. They're actually harming Israel. So I think that's something that people have to take into account and have to understand about this situation, that this situation isn't just a normal situation where Israel is telling people that they can't criticize the government. There is probably no government that is criticized as much as Israel. We have members of the Knesset, our own elected officials, that criticize the government and what the government stands for from the podium of the Knesset. There is no more greater free speech of criticism of Israel than we have in this country. So that's the idea. I think that's important to recognize, and the facts of this case, and the facts of what's going on, the truth of what's going on, and not just believe those that wish to demonize our country, that are using this girl as a pawn, although she's probably willingly being allowed to be used. What should happen, in my opinion, is we should take her, put her on a plane right back to America, and let her argue her case all that she wants to from there, like she did as a college student, and let her talk about Israel and how bad Israel is from there. Well, that's the truth. That's about it. If you only came in the middle and you missed the points that I made, so I guess you could watch it again. By the way, beautiful building going on here. We're in Midbar Yehuda Shomron. So this is absolutely beautiful back here for those that have been here or have been watching these videos, and you can watch the development. Almost every day it changes. You can see there's, even from yesterday, there's all these new rocks that are here that are moved to be able to build the new streets that are coming. So it's really impressive. Really, really impressed with the city council here in Mitzvah Yericho. My wife obviously is